Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa man istanna bi sunnatihi ila yawmiddin. Welcome everyone. I'm sorry it's a bit late today because I had some prior commitments, so I needed to delay the class. Yesterday's recording and today's recording, inshallah, I will upload it today shortly after the class, right? So basically, we began with Surah Al Kawthar, right? We discussed the general meanings of the ayat, right? So who can recite? Who wants to recite? Let us recite one ayah each, right? So let's begin with the first ayah of Surah Al Kawthar. Who wants to recite?
Uh,
Yeah,
I'll recite. Okay.
yeah, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر.
Your voice got cut off, Hadia. Uh, can you please repeat once
Sure,
more?
sure. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر.
Again, once you reach the middle of the ayah, it gets cut off.
I don't know what's the matter.
A bit.
It's fine.
Just please try once more.
Okay. إنا
Yeah, the voice is
أعطيناك
fine right now.
الكوثر. Yeah.
Okay. Just one observation, right? You tried. You're trying. I can see that you're trying to pronounce Alif and Ain differently, which is good. You are also trying to differentiate between Ta versus Ta, but it's becoming a little more than what is necessary for the Ta. Like you said, Inna a'toynaka al-kawthar. But when we recite, it has to be very subtle. You know, the surroundness of the Ta, it doesn't have to be in the entire sound. It has to be at the beginning of the sound, but once you say ah, it doesn't have to be ah, right? So inna a'tainaka al-kawthar, a'tayna ta. There is a ta, but then it doesn't continue with the vowel sound on the side, right? So أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر, right? So I did distinguish I didn't say الكوثر, but not too round. And the other important thing for all of us in this ayah is the tha at the end, towards the end. Al, it's not kawsar, okay? It's not kawsar, no, it's kawthar. Kawthar, kawthar. Okay, um, very soft, not not the sound, right? Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar, right? Okay, the second ayah. Who wants to recite? Any volunteers? How about Ikra? Or if Ikra is not available on the mic, Asma.
Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام أسماء. Could you please read the second?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فصل لربك وانهر إن
Very good.
شانئك
Excellent.
هو الأبتر.
Excellent. Very close. Very close to the correct recitation. And if you all notice that she is reciting with an intonation in her voice, like there is a kind of a simple internal melody. So that is how we should try to recite. Like just like I am speaking, that would be like a robot, right? So we need to try and slowly, while we're hearing the Qur'an, the Qari, when we hear the Qari recite, let's catch some of the intonation, that melody of a verse. So there are some things outside our scope, but reciting the Quran with a melody in a way that soothes our own ears, our own hearts, that would help us, in our ibadah, in our connection with Allah. So, yes, this is the way. The only one thing which I noticed, Asma, in your recitation, which was a bit off, when you said, فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْهَرْ, it should not be one, va. It's wa, right? This is in Farsi, in Kashmiri, right? It doesn't exist in uh, Arabic. In Arabic, you have wa, the diphthong wa, right? فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ, right? So I won't say wanhar, right? I'll say wanhar. Your lips have to be rounded. Okay. So I think excellent. I think everybody is doing very, very well, mashallah. And slowly we are opening up, which is basically what I wanted. Right. Okay, now before we move on to the details of the meanings of the Quran, Asma had asked a question last time about Isa al-Sawab, right? And she had said that we have this tradition of reading the Quran for the deceased when they pass away. So what about those ayat of the Quran in which there is, let's say, a mention of punishment for previous nations or punishment for wrongdoers, or there is a mention of Jahannam, things like that. Uh, Firstly, I clarified that when we do Isal Sawab, it see it's there is nobody has given us a guarantee that we would do an act, right, a good act which might seem good to us and it will be definitely accepted, right? There needs to be some kind of indication in the Quran and Sunnah. What the Quran and Sunnah indicate is that if somebody passes away, there are a number of ways of expressing, let's say, your if you want to if you want Allah to have mercy on them, right, to express your kind of respect for the person who has passed away, or your gratitude if they had done something good in your life, right? Firstly, you can read the Quran or do any good act and send it to whom? To your parents, or let's say grandparents, those from whose progeny you are. If you're directly related to them, then there is a question of Isal a Sawab, which means sending, sending your sharing, basically. It's like sharing your karma. You cannot share your good deeds with someone who was unrelated to you, because Allah has kept this as a special provision. When somebody passes away, the progeny that they have left back in the world, right, they are one source of goodness for them. Why? Because they were a source of bringing them into this world, and they did their tarbiyah. They taught them. This is why we are supposed to teach our children and their children to make dua for us after we pass away, right? So you can do any good action and send it to your forefathers. Okay. Now, what about the Quran that we read in a group and try to send it to someone? Wallahu alam, that is not the correct way of actually doing it. But what some people say is, what if somebody's, like the deceased person's son or daughter or son-in-law, daughter-in-law, they are the ones who arrange for this gathering, right? They arrange in the sense, they tell them to just let's all get together and let's recite, let's share the sawab and barakah. And then they tell Allah that, oh Allah, send all of these good deeds that were performed because I initiated them to my forefathers. So that's kind of what we call jugad in Urdu. So if you want to do that jugad, fine, right? That's like an indirect way of still you're the only one who can share merit with them, with the deceased, not somebody who is unrelated to them. Okay, now what about those people who have done some good in our life? Let's say a teacher who taught us and we are indebted to them. Them Allah will reward every single time that you perform that good action. If they have passed away, you had a teacher or you had a friend who taught you, let's say, how to pray. You had a friend um, who insisted that that you stop sitting in bad company, come to good company, and that because of that friend you became a very Islamic person, a very good person, right? That person will have your reward automatically while they are alive and after they pass away, if they pass away before you, right? So you won't have to do Isa sawab in that situation. Plus, irrespective of Isa sawab, the Prophet ﷺ has told us, "Ikrimu mautakum." Honor your dead, respect your dead. The best you can do is not slander, not backbite somebody who, of course, it's always backbiting once they pass away. You're speaking behind their back. Not say anything negative about them, not recount any bad thing they might have done to you, right? So other than is, that's the whole point. The point is we are so focused on Isa alayhi salam, we forget the other rights that the dead have over us, right? The other thing is about the portions of the Quran. You do not need to worry about that. The entire Quran, its reading basically, is a source of sawab. The reading of the verses speaking about Jahannam is a source of sawab. The reading of the verses speaking about punishment is a source of sawab. Just like reading of the verses that speak about Jannah, that speak about Allah is a source of sawab. There are verses about Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl. But because it was the kalam of Allah, because it is the divine word of Allah, so uttering it is a source of blessings and sawab, even though in those verses Allah might be cursing a particular disbeliever or a particular tyrant. I mean, imagine how many verses are about Bani Israel, how many verses are about Fir'aun in the Quran, right? About Ad and Samud and Qawm Nuh and Qawm Lut, right? So it's not like Nauzubillah, those verses have no, they are bereft of barakah. No, their recitation is barakah. So yes, if you're doing Isa al Sawab for a forefather, and if you're doing it by reading the Quran, don't worry, you can read any portion of the Quran for that, right? But I would also recommend doing other charitable acts, because what Allah allows more than somebody just sitting with the tasbih or sitting on the musalla and praying or reading the Quran. What Allah allows even more is if a person who is already doing these acts then goes out to serve his creation, to help somebody in need. So do those kind of acts and do Isal Sawab, right? That would be my suggestion. So is your question answered, Asma? Is there anything else?
I'm speechless, seriously. And thank you so much. This was
Thank you.
such.
Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking the question. Anything else from anyone? Hadia, would you like to add something? Anything, any observation or anything that you feel should be discussed? Anything that you feel should be said?
I would like to ask actually.
Ikra, yeah.
Yes, Assalamualaikum.
Hadia, you're asking or Ikra is asking? Walaikum salam.
I was asking. I was asking.
Yeah. Okay, okay.
Actually, you were talking about teachers. Is it
Yes.
only Islamic teachers or
No, it's about see any person, because this is a hadith that a person who initiates anything good, right, will have the reward of it until the day of judgment, and a person who initiates something evil will have the reward of it until the day of judgment. Just like Kabil, who killed Habil, he gets the sin of every murder that is committed, right? There is a share in that murder sin for him also, like he gets a part of that sin because he started that. So the first person who might have started the institution of riba, the person who started the first, let's say, interest based system or monetary system, he might be getting all the sins or wherever it is practiced, right? Now what does a teacher essentially do? A teacher teaches you something you do not know. This is a divine role, like Allah says about himself. He says, allama al insana ma lam ya'lam. He taught man what he did not know, right? Allah teaches mankind what they don't know, and then among mankind it is the teachers who teach knowledge, who disseminate knowledge. So that in itself is a sacred duty. Now how Allah will reward them, even let's say if the students are very bad like us, if they have students like us who don't even remember them or remember their favors, automatically they will be getting credit. You get me? Automatically, if the teacher who taught you how to write, now, the next time you teach somebody how to write, if you teach your child how to write, who is getting the sawab for it? You and your teacher, right? And perhaps they were taught how to write by a teacher. So they are getting that person is also getting a reward and you don't even know about it. Same way, if a teacher taught you Quran, right? They taught you how to read the Quran or taught you a portion of the Quran. So Allah knows best how He rewards and how much He rewards. But what we know for sure is that in this silsila, in this chain, right, a person who has ever initiated any good will keep on getting the rewards until the day of judgment, which is why we should participate in every single good deed, right? It is said that there will be people on the day of judgment who they might not have done many good deeds, but they had initiated some good deed which blossomed. It grew so much until the day of judgment that they will have so many good deeds with them. On the other hand, there could be people who performed many good deeds, but they initiated something which was wrong, a small thing, which then grew and which so many people copied and which became such a big fitna that they will find themselves having earned a lot of bad deeds as well, right? This is a thing to ponder upon. Okay. So I know, Hadia, why you were asking the question, because usually it seems that the matters of the akhirah and jaza it seems to be more linked directly to Islamic knowledge. But all knowledge that is beneficial comes under this. Any skill that you were taught by a person, and they say that um, uh, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, teach a man to fish and he will eat for a lifetime, right? So it depends. If somebody is that kind of a person teaching people skills, life skills, of course that in itself is also, after they pass away, it will be a sadka jariyah, a constant sadka. If they plant a tree, that's a sadka jariyah. If they set up a public washroom somewhere, let's say, sadka jariyah, whatever, right? If they write a book that people are, imagine Ahmad Didat, he has written his books how many years ago? And he died, right? He died several years ago. It's going to be more than a decade, I think, since he passed away. His people are reading his books, listening to his lectures. Same with Dr. Israr Ahmad. MashaAllah, he spent, I don't know, 25, 30 years of his life on Pakistan TV teaching Quran. And then we saw him because of Dr. Zakir Naik on Peace TV. We all listened to him. He wrote books as well, many books he has written. We are still listening to him, still reading him. So his account is constantly being credited, right? His account never actually closed. It closed, but his deeds were such that they generated a lot of sadqa jariyah, right? So we should do the intelligent kind of good deeds, the deeds that don't finish. Yes, Asma.
Sorry. Actually, there's one more question
Hmm.
that has been raised just in my mind. I have a question like if someone is doing some bad deeds, right?
Hmm.
And his or student is learning that same thing, or brother or sister
Hmm.
is learning that same thing and doing that very deed or that very action that is totally
Hmm.
prohibited. And once
Hmm.
she or he will repent,
Hmm.
Allah se maafi मांग ली, and then the person who whether he's his student or sister or brother, whoever
Hmm.
that person is doing that
Hmm.
deed continuously, but the person
Hmm.
from which she has she has she had taught or her, has been
Hmm.
teached by someone, that person
Hmm.
has repented, तो उसका भी गुनाह उस पे ही जाता है, whether is
वो
it
हमें अल्लाह से
possible
पूछना पड़ेगा. If there is a phone
like
number we could dial, we would ask him. But yes, but there's one thing that is important in this question, that is the concept of tawbah. What is tawbah? The kind of tawbah that is accepted, right, has three conditions. The first condition is accepting or realizing the mistake, what was wrong. That is, the person who did it should realize what he did was wrong, and if he has consciously taught it, because a person will not be held responsible for something that somebody acquired from them while they themselves did not know. Okay, but if they consciously, let's say, nauzubillah, if somebody taught someone magic, like let's say there was a person, he learned magic from somewhere, practiced it, and he taught it to someone. After a few years he repented, right? Now what happens to the other students that he had taught? If he has actually done tawbah, there are three conditions to this tawbah. Number one, he realizes completely with full certainty that what he did was wrong, right? In that realization, there must be the realization that teaching it was wrong as well. Then he must stop doing it. Second condition. Third condition, he must never repeat it again. This is real tawbah. When these three things are there, if these three things are there, Allah inshallah will accept his tawbah, and he will not be held responsible for what others do because of him, because he clearly repented. He did tawbah, right? He regretted it, he stopped it, and he never did it again. Okay. Now what is usually suggested for a kind of, these are those loose arrows which we shoot from our bow, right, without thinking. Similar arrows we shoot from our tongue as well. And once that arrow leaves our tongue, lands somewhere, we cannot get it back. So what do we do to those spent words, which we might later regret? It is said that in such things that you have done, which you have no control over now, you should try to trace back those people and ask forgiveness, or clarify the matter to them if it is within your power. That is what is said. For example, if you have backbitten someone, what should you do? And you are really, really sad about it. Your soul is heavy, your conscience is heavy. So what do? You basically, the scholars have suggested that first of all, go back to the gathering where you backbit him, right? And accept that you were wrong in saying what you said about the person, except among those same people, and then recount a few of the merits of that person. It is said that you should do this while you're doing tawbah. Also do tawbah. Okay. So same way we could have a suggestion for such a person, that inshallah Allah will accept his tawbah if those three conditions are there, even if the other people continue with their, with the evil that they learned from him or her. But it would be best for the person if he can trace them, right? And he can convey this to them, right? I hope that clarifies the matter for you.
yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. So, if there's anyone else, Ikra or Shafia, you have a question, we can take up the questions since you already started with questions today.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
My question is regarding what is the difference between the nafs and heart and soul? These are quite related terms in terms of iman, and I want to know the difference between them.
Hmm. Okay, the first thing is the three terms you used are from two different languages. You said nafs, right? And then you said heart, and then you said soul. Soul is an English word, heart is an English word. So if we need to look at what they mean, they will mean something in English which they might or might not mean in Arabic. Now, because we have been used to translating, right? Translating the Quran particularly and Islamic terminology. So we have basically tried to find equivalents of Arabic terms in English, which is why now we have the word soul, heart, right? Now, if you look only at Arabic, if you look at the terms used in the Quran, you have nafs, you have ruh, you have qalb, you have fu'ad, right? What I remember from my teachers, one of my teachers, he explained to us that there is a subtle difference between nafs and ruh. Okay, the ruh, the spirit, right? The soul, the life-giving spirit which is within us. When it is free, when it is without a body, we call it ruh. Okay, this life-giving force, this spirit, when it is free without a body, we call it ruh. As soon as it enters a body, it becomes a nafs. Is that clear? First of all, tell me that, Shafia.
Yes, it is.
Okay, first that thing. The second thing which we all as Muslims need to know is just like ilmul ghaib. Okay, just like ilmul ghaib as in the knowledge of the unseen. Just like ilmul ghaib can never be within our complete grasp. Okay, our senses are five senses, or how many, maybe some might have more. So our senses cannot grasp ilmul ghaib, right? There can be fragments of what we call ilmul ghaib at a point which is later given to us by Allah, right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is a major discussion about him. There are schools of thought which say that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had ilmul ghaib. Actually, what they meant to say initially was that Allah had conveyed to him some of the matters, right? Allah had conveyed. Because Allah alone has ilmul ghaib, then what he does is he conveys, he shares some of that secret knowledge with some of his slaves. So he does share it with some prophets. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he got the greatest share of that knowledge, but it was not intrinsic. It came to him from Allah. It was a gift from Allah. If you read in the Quran, Khizr, right, the righteous person that Musa went to meet, he had knowledge about many unseen things which were ghaib for Musa, but they were not ghaib for him because Allah had conveyed it to him, right? So just like no human being can from himself have knowledge about ghaib, and no human being can have as much knowledge about ghaib as much as Allah has, in the same way, we cannot have complete knowledge about a few other things which are from the same world. Number one is ruh. Number two is qadr, destiny. So when we ask questions about the ruh and about destiny, we should be knowing that the actual answer, the best answer is Wallahu alam. Allah knows best. Right? So if you would ask me the question, this ruh, okay, once it has become nafs, it's my nafs now. Where is it in my body? Is it in my whole body? Is it centered in my heart? Where is it? And what is this heart that I say? right? If you ask me this question, I have to tell you Allah knows best. But yes, there is an opinion that it seems that this nafs, although it might be everywhere in my body, it might be all pervading, just like my blood, just like the blood in my veins, but it seems that there is a kind of a control center somewhere in the chest, in the sadr, in near to what we call, or inside what we call the heart, the human heart. Here again, there are two terms, qalb and fu'ad. Fu'ad in the Arabic language, it refers to the heart that pumps blood. Usually, it refers to that, right? But it has also been used to refer to the emotive, the emotive capacity of human beings, the emotional capacity. For that also, fu'ad has been used. If you look at the Quran, right? So this somehow this heart which is pumping blood, Quran is indicating it doesn't only pump blood. That is something related to emotions in it, which is why you have a heart attack when there is an emotional storm within you, right? So that is again still a ghaib for us. Science hasn't yet revealed any kind of connection. What science tells us instead is that the brain, the human brain, is where is the control center of your body, is where your thought processes take place, is where your dreams take place, it is where your memory is. That is the part that which makes decisions. So some thinkers, Muslim philosophers and other religious philosophers, they might say that this qalb that we talk about, right, the qalb, right, this the kind of heart which is not physical, right, but it is like this control center. It is this place where decisions are made, where niyah, it is the seat of niyah, intention. They say that perhaps this is in the brain, because it seems to be talking about the mind. But again, nobody can say these things with clarity, with absolute clarity, right? You can always have but you can have a but everywhere, because Allah also uses these terms interchangeably. But again, just to keep things simple and basic, there is a difference between ruh and nafs, right? When the ruh is without a body, we call it a ruh, which is why the world of souls is called alam al arwah, the world of souls, right? It's a part of the ghaib. And when the soul is inside a body, it is called a nafs. It becomes a nafs, right? Um, now, for the other thing you mentioned, you can remember simply that the physical heart, which pumps blood and has some kind of connection with emotions which we don't completely understand, right? That is the fuad, right? Okay, it has capacity for emotion. And then the kind of metaphorical heart, which all languages speak about. Like I say, in my heart of hearts, I was thinking, right? Or I don't feel good about this in my heart, right? What is that heart? That is a kind of a, you can say, not exactly metaphorical, it actually exists. It seems to be a part of the nafs, right? It seems to be situated somewhere in your body, but we cannot completely locate it. So it is the seat of the niyyah. Just remember it like that. It is the place where you make your niyyah, your intention. That is the qalb, right? That heart. And why is it called qalb? You know what qalb means? Qalb means to flip. Qalb, right? Qalb is called qalb because it keeps on changing, right? Your capacity for decision making, it depends on what? It depends on your intention. And your intention comes from where? It comes from a thought process. And what triggers that thought process? You understand? You're getting what I'm saying? So your thoughts are constantly changing because the stimulus is changing, right? You're exposed to different people, different environment, different ideas, different challenges constantly. So your thoughts change, your body's reaction to all those stimuli keeps on changing, You're constantly in flux. If those of you who have studied physics, you are constantly in flux, right? You're constantly changing. There's this field around you. Okay. Now, when you're constantly changing, this thing inside you, which is sometimes turning right and turning left, this is the qalb. That's your qalb. That's your that heart, that decision making heart, the one that is the seat of the niyyah, of intention. It is called qalb because it's always wavering, and Allah is called muqallib al qulub, the one who flips the hearts. He has, there is a hadith that Allah has the hearts of human beings between his two fingers. And have you seen how you flip a card with your fingers? How somebody playing cards flips a card? That's how Allah can turn hearts. Suddenly an ilham comes in your heart. So where did it come? There, it came there in that container, in that heart, which is the seat of your niyyah or your decision making capacity. And how did that ilham come? Allah put it there. So just like ilham comes to your heart, waswasa also comes. Waswasa is from shaitan, and ilham is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So you get good intuitions and you also get these evil whisperings. Now, do they come to your fu'ad, your physical heart? No. Where do they come? They come to that thing that we are calling qalb, right? And it is with that qalb that we make decisions, that we have intentions. It is that heart which knows things, what we call metacognition, not just cognition, not just saying cat, dog, horse, mobile phone, laptop. When I say those things, my eyes are seeing, then that impulse is translated by my brain, and then my tongue says, this is what I see, right? Not that. Metacognition is where you actually understand things. You understand metaphysics. You understand, why do I exist? Now, this why do I exist, your brain doesn't know. Who knows? Your heart. Which heart? The qalb. The qalb has to know. So if you spend your entire life trying to learn, why am I here? Who am I? Where am I going? Why do I exist? If you try to learn it from your brain, you might get the information, but you will not get the guidance. If you try to learn it from your qalb, right? In order to reach a point of certainty or yaqeen, which is there in your qalb. Iman is there in your qalb. It's not in your brain. Okay, the iman, your niyyah, right? It is there in that qalb. The fact that iman exists, that niyyah exists, it means that the qalb exists somewhere, right? So I think it was an interesting discussion. Thank you for the question, and I hope I answered it to some extent at least. Right? Thank you, Shafia. Thank you everyone for participating. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.